Hey guys, Jack and welcome back to another video. There's not really much to go into. First match we're going to be discussing is the Man City versus Leeds game, but we had a couple of great fixtures this past week with a lot of permutations to them. Let's jump into it. So yeah, the game we're going to be talking about is Sam Allardyce's first game with Leeds United, a 2-1 loss for them, but it was a very interesting game. You know, obviously being a 3 p.m. kickoff, obviously due to the King's coronation, which kind of puts into question, was this, is the 3 p.m. blackout really necessary at this stage? But we'll have to see. In terms of this game, Man City were in control the entire game. In fairness, like Leeds United set up in a kind of defensive 4-5-1, and they defended quite well in the first half. I mean, I felt like they nullified Foden quite well on that left hand side. Ayling did a good job there, and Nonto with a good bit of tracking back, but it just was the amount of pressure that Man City put Leeds under meant that they couldn't hold out for very long, and that's kind of ended up with Gundogan picking up 2 goals, and he had a great game overall, just being a metronome. And I think he made the record for the most passes in the Premier League this season. And Man City were just very much in control for the majority of the game. Haaland, De Bruyne linked up very well to breaking behind the Leeds defence, which at times got pulled out because they were trying to press maybe Alvarez, Rico Lewis, thinking that they could capitalise on them, but they just broke through. And Christensen was interesting at centre back. He had the pace to kind of handle Haaland, but he didn't really have like no one does against Haaland with the size and the speed, like that combination of things. And Haaland hit the post about 3 or 4 times. He just couldn't finish, and it was very funny just how many times the commentator said it's not his day. It's not his day. It was just like that for the entire game. But towards the end of the game, Man City had a penalty. Obviously, Gundogan was gifted it by Haaland, to secure a hat-trick. But it was very interesting how kind of tetchy it got towards that point of the game. Obviously, Rodrigo came on and got the goal right after the penalty. And, Leeds put a lot of pressure on. And granted, they didn't get they couldn't, secure as a result from this game, either draw or even winning it. But they were fighting for it. And credit to City for, holding out. But they were very professional towards the end of the game, especially Haaland in the corner flag. But you can't really be doing that. I would have thought this would have been a 4-5-1. I can't remember what I said in the preview, but I thought it would be a complete another blowout. But credit to Allardyce, and I think that shows that they have a chance in this relegation battle. 3 games left, and I know Newcastle coming to Ellen Road is a difficult game, but they've shown that they can handle these teams. I know it's a very small sample size, but they could potentially do something there if they play their cards right. I think it would be very difficult under Newcastle. And in terms of City, obviously playing Real Madrid the day this is uploaded, and they rested a lot of key players for that game. I mean, Kyle Walker would be needed for Vinicius, Bernardo Silva, Rodri. They had a lot of players out for this, but I can imagine that, and Jack Grealish as well. I can imagine they're relieved that they came out with with all 3 points, and it keeps them at the top of the table. So yeah, that's it for this game. Let's just jump into the rest of them. So we're going to look at the rest of the games from this past week, and first of all, Chelsea getting a 3-1 win over Bournemouth. Bournemouth had their chances, but credit to Chelsea, getting the first goal in the Conor Gallagher, and after Bournemouth equalised, they had a few chances to even extend their lead, but it took until about the 80-odd minute where Benoit Badiashile got his first goal, and that's really good for him. And I'm surprised he was left out of the Champions League squad. Hypothetically, if he was kept put in, would he have done better? Would he have done better against Real Madrid? I don't know, but I was surprised he hadn't played as much as he probably should, because he's a very talented young defender, and he showed that weeks prior to Potter being sacked. But I don't know why for the last few weeks he hasn't played, but he did. And João Felix with a first time finish, to secure them the victory, and that's a huge win for Lampard and not getting the 007 tag on him. It's very difficult for them to see what they're going to do, but at least they survived, staved off relegation. Next is Wolves versus Villa, and Villa didn't threaten as much as I would have expected. I know Jose Sa made one brilliant save, but they didn't really do much in terms of threatening them. I think Tyrone Mings is kind of I don't know if he was playing left back or he was kind of being a wide centre back, but he looked very effective down that left hand side. I mean, running into the box. So he's a huge threat. I think 6'4", 6'5". He's a big lad, so you can expect he can be a danger in the box. With I think Totti Gomez getting the goal. That's a huge win, and especially in a Midlands derby. Next is Tottenham versus Palace, and Palace had a few good chances, but nothing clear cut. And great delivery by Pedro Porro. I know he had the time, but it was a great delivery for Kane to surpass Wayne Rooney's record, and that's a huge, it's a huge thing for him. And in terms of the summer, I think he needs to decide what he wants to do, and he needs to either sign a new contract or Spurs have to sell him, and they'll try to get an extortionate price for him if they keep him in the Premier League. But I say he wants to stay and potentially break Shearer's record. I think that's going to be a huge consideration for both him and the club coming into the summer. Next is Liverpool-Brentford, and I thought Brentford would be a bit of a challenge for them, and they were, but Liverpool surprisingly scored against Brentford on a set piece. I know it's the second phase, but they did. Van Dijk ended it across for Salah, who was quick on his feet to knock the ball into the net. And Brentford had a few chances, but Alisson getting his 100th clean sheet for them. It's a huge result, and I say they're really pleased with getting the result there, and that means their form puts them up in the 5th place. But that doesn't mean that they're out of with 3 games left. That means they're still in a chance with the top 4. And speaking of top 4, Newcastle versus Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal, I watched this game as well. Arsenal looked really good, not in terms of performance, in terms of just how they conducted themselves. Granted, Xhaka being the ultimate poop houser, because we're not going to swear in the show. And yeah, they did really well to hold out against Newcastle at home at St James's Park. I know Kiwior was very fortunate that VAR was working, and they did well with that. And it was really good for them. Alexander Isak looked kind of void of confidence. Callum Wilson as well. Even with Miggy Almiron and St. Maximin, who came on and did cause a bit of danger for them. But if credit to Arsenal, Arteta, he reacted well. Zinchenko was again being exploited defensively, and I don't know if he can be there long term unless they get someone like Partey or like N'Golo Kante, or similar to what Jordan Henderson did with Trent Alexander-Arnold, where he'd almost rotate as the fullback. And I think that's what they need from a holding midfielder. But Martin Odegaard did really well. Ramsdale with huge saves. Martinelli running, doing well as well. And Jorginho, excellent alongside Xhaka and Odegaard. And yeah, and just that's huge for Arsenal, probably secure, banking second place and keeping themselves in the title charge. I know it's nearly gone at this stage, but you still need to just keep fighting. Ramsdale as well, making a couple of great saves. Next is West Ham Man United, and this is where VAR should have done better. I feel so sorry for De Gea. It was a poor mistake from him, and I'm surprised, and I'm going to be interested to see what happens in the summer. I know Ten Hag came out and said that he wants him to sign a new deal, but for 375 grand a week, because that's what his current contract is, I don't think he deserves it at this stage. He's a great goalkeeper. I just don't think it's worth that much for him. And West Ham probably should have gotten a penalty, because if you saw the images, Lindelof did handle the ball, but I think because it was in his silhouette that it was it was not clear and obvious. I think it should have been a penalty, because that would definitely kill the game, and Man United wouldn't have a chance of getting back. That's just my opinion. But that puts their top 4, top 4 chances, lowers them a bit, but it's still in their hands. and quickly run through these final 3 games. Fulham, Leicester. Fulham just completely romped them, and then kind of a few mistakes led to them conceding 3, but it was very comfortable for them. Tom Kearney getting a couple of good goals, and just Leicester look dead and void of confidence. Great attacking, but just looked wayward defensively. And speaking of wayward defensively, Everton and Brighton, this is the definition of counter-attacking football. Brighton high pressing, playing it around in front of them, but Everton and Dwight McNeil in particular had a great game, just countering really well on the transition, and they just looked really dangerous, and that puts them out. I think that puts them out of the relegation zone. And another team out of the relegation zone is Nottingham Forest. And again, it was one of those games where they got beaten on set pieces, a penalty and corner, but they did enough to secure 3 points. Awoniyi, with, if you haven't seen the second goal, it was this really nice kind of play. And I think it's Danilo from Brazil. He looked really good throughout the game. It's really disappointing to see Southampton. I know it's not mathematically done yet, but they're down, and I think it's probably best for them, and let's say they're in the best situation given the young players that they have. Whether many of them will stay with them, I don't know, but they need that kind of Burnley-esque rebuild to revamp the squad. And in a lower division, the fans would probably be pleased that they're going to be winning more games than they more games than they have at this, in the Premier League era. Not since the 13-14 season. But Nottingham Forest also out of the relegation zone. It's a huge result for them, and this relegation battle is really firing up. I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends, and especially with 3 games left, anything can happen. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, give it a like. Please subscribe if you are into this content. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take care.